President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy say they will meet Monday at the White House. The news coming hours after Trump's high-profile Alaska summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, which ended without a deal or an agreement to end the Kremlin's three-year war on Ukraine. It was Putin's first time back on U.S. soil in more than a decade. He received a grand welcome, complete with a military flyover and a red carpet rollout. After their three-hour sit-down, Putin said he and Trump had reached an understanding. President Trump returned to Washington, D.C. early this morning, speaking with Zelenskyy and other European leaders on the flight home. Nancy Cordes begins our coverage in Anchorage, Alaska. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, and President Trump used that 7-hour flight back to Washington, D.C. to hit the phones. He spoke to Zelenskyy. He spoke to NATO leaders to brief them on what he had discussed with Putin. And in that Truth Social post this morning, he said that he is meeting with Zelenskyy on Monday and that if that conversation goes well, he will then set up a meeting for all three leaders. But if Putin made any concrete steps towards peace in this summit, President Trump did not reveal them, either here in Alaska or on his way home.
President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin both left Alaska Friday, hours ahead of schedule, after a 12-minute public appearance in which they did not take questions.
There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there.
President Trump didn't elaborate, leaving many to wonder whether the two leaders made any true progress towards a ceasefire in Ukraine.
Now it's really up to President Zelenskyy to get it done.
In an interview before heading home, Trump seemed to suggest it was now Ukraine's responsibility.
I think the meeting was a 10 in the sense that we got along great, and it's good when, two big powers get along, especially when they're nuclear powers.
The two men did get along, especially at the start of the summit, when President Trump greeted Putin on the tarmac like an old friend and even invited him to ride in his armored vehicle. It was Putin's first time meeting with an American president since he invaded Ukraine 3.5 years ago. Since then, tens of thousands of Ukrainians have been killed. Even more Russian soldiers have died.
Mr. Putin, will you commit to not killing any more civilians?
All told, yesterday's sit-down lasted about 3 hours. A second scheduled meeting was canceled. As Trump flew back, the White House posted this picture of Trump pointing and glaring at a bemused Vladimir Putin, even as Trump backed away from his threat to impose tougher economic sanctions if there's no deal.
Well, because of what happened today, I think I don't have to think about that. Now, I may have to think about it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, but we don't have to think about that right now. I think the meeting went very well.
In his Truth Social post this morning, President Trump said everyone has agreed that the best way forward is to move directly to a peace deal without trying for a temporary ceasefire first. If that's true, that would be a major and surprising change for Zelenskyy and the Europeans, who have been arguing that Putin should have to prove that he is willing to stop the killing first before there's any discussion about dividing up territory that has been captured by the Russians. Michelle?
A lot to think about. Thanks, Nancy. Well,